Sahana Vavatu, Sahano Bhunaktu, Sahaviryankaravavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I will speed up just a notch because these last verses are becoming, they're showing us more of what we have already heard. And one prominent verse that will kind of put it all together is this verse that I want to do now. And then we'll go right into the teaching. And that is verse 41, which says, no distinction between knower, knowledge, and known. Jnatr jnana, jneya bhedaha, pare na atmani vidyate. Chidananda ekarupavat, dipyate swayam evahi. Distinction between knower, knowledge, and known. That does not exist. And so this means that awareness becomes or is the truth of the jnata, the knower, the jnanam, means of knowledge, and jneya, objects. So firstly, what is awareness? We said there is something constant about you through and through the changes. Awareness is a substratum on which all things take place. Awareness survives the attributes of your body and mind. Your body and mind are going through changes. It was a very different state when we came here as it is right now. The mind perhaps is more educated, it's more discerning, it has learned something, and thereby awareness is the principle that survives through and through the changing conditionalities of your body and mind. If there's one thing that survives, it is you. In the presence of you, all experiences take place, which are at the level of the 5 koshas. So, awareness here, okay? That which is constant, something about you is constant. Can you say your thoughts are constant? Memories? No. Epiphanies, insights, spiritual experiences, subtle forms of awakening, spiritual awakening, what they call spiritual awakening. You Google nowadays spiritual awakening, everyone's got a story to tell. Big books, I woke up and I had a spiritual awakening. And that becomes now a claim to co-opt, to claim enlightenment. It's just happening in time, okay? So awareness, it says, is the truth of the jnata. The jnata. So the jnata is the knower, okay? So the knower, I'm just going to put a few words here in brackets so that we're alert to these other alternative forms, because you may see this from other teachers. So the knower, would you like to tell me what names for the knower? Pramata, excellent. Pramata, other names? Ahamkara. Ahamkara, other names? Observer. Now in observer, I'm going to put brackets, drik and sakshi. Drik and sakshi. Other names? Doer, so karta. Karta. Other names? Bhokta. Enjoyer, bhokta. Sorry? Jiva? Yeah, Jiva is more for the 3 bodies, but okay, we'll put Jiva. Yeah, okay, Jiva. The witness, reflected consciousness. Reflected consciousness, which is pratibimba, right? Pratibimba or chidabhasa, they're same words. Chidabhasa. Okay. Now, suppose you're new to Vedanta. Let this not scare you. Okay. Any tradition is going to have a lot of words. In just one word, you can say knower, or I sense, or sense of I or ego. That sense of individuality. So it says that awareness is the content of the knower. So we said the knower is like, the knower is a long thought. It's also a vritti. But it's a much longer vritti than this pen, because this pen is also a thought. But this pen is gone, but the knower is still there. So the knower is there in the presence of the knower, who is nothing but awareness. Okay? Because the knower is mithya, and mithya resolves into awareness. So the knower is there. Now the knower recognizes, knows about this object. This object is gone, but the knower now knows there's absence of pen. So the knower is a much longer thought. It's still a thought than is an object. And that knower thought collapses or disappears in deep sleep. Deep sleep. Okay? That knower is gone. Why? Because the knower is nothing but the mind, ultimately. You need the mind. So what's the content of this knower? The knower. I know about the world. I know about the class. I know about this lovely chanting. Yeah, it's always, the knower is mithya, because to say that I'm careful. I'm not saying that the knower is satyam. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that the ahamkara is satyam. I'm saying the ahamkara, the relationship between awareness and ahamkara is the relationship between this pot and clay. There's something about the ahamkara that's molding and shaping. Perhaps this is a better example. The ahamkara is molding and shaping. Knower, doer, experiencer, knower, doer, knower, experiencer, enjoyer, knower, doer, experiencer, enjoyer, doer. But all throughout, there is one content, which is the plastic. And that content is known to you as this constant amness. Through the doer, through the knower, through the enjoyer. Okay? So awareness is the content of the jnata, also of the jnanam. So this is a means of knowledge. In other words, for the knower, means of knowledge. In one short word, vritti. For the knower to come in to know about things, right, you have to present it an object. Now that object that is being presented, where is this object now? Is it here? It's in the mind. Good. So now that object in your mind, what is the content of this object in your mind? It is also awareness. Om Trayambakaya Jamahe Sugandhim Pushti Vardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshiyamrtaat. Gone. Awareness of the whole from beginning to end. Content is awareness, and you cannot deny that because there was awareness of the entire thought. And then awareness is also the truth of the object, jnana. So jnana, which is the physical object. Okay, so we're talking about the actual physical object, not the thought, but this actual physical object. How do we demonstrate that this resolves into awareness? Would like someone to attempt? How does this resolve into awareness? Or take a pot. Take a pot. How does this resolve into awareness? Perform an inquiry. Satyamitya, please. Clay, pot, minerals, molecules, atoms, quarks, strings, whatever else they're going to discover yet. Concepts, awareness. Because you cannot find a final building block. But what you do find is that the more you go down, the more it takes on concepts, these fuzzy concepts. Is there a difference between a particle or a wave? It becomes very fuzzy already at the quantum level.
Andre, is concepts on the same level as intelligence?
Yes, so concepts. So it's nothing but concepts, blueprint intelligence. So these are all different names. Why am I giving so many names? So that it gets your mind churning constantly. If I just keep on saying intelligence, intelligence, intelligence. Okay. So let's do a little inquiry. Pot, simple. Pot, arrow. Is Nino here? Yeah, she's here. Clay. I'm going to go atoms, concepts, awareness. Why can a concept not be without awareness? Because just like your own concept at the microcosm cannot be without the presence of awareness, in that same way, the blueprint that puts together all forms, including the atoms, the molecules, the minerals, that too cannot keep on putting things together intelligently unless it is in the presence of awareness. Intelligence cannot be without the presence of awareness, without the presence of a conscious being. So this whole one being, one self, I am. In the presence of one being, one self, that I am, there is an intelligence which is constantly putting things together, and one of those forms is you right now. Okay. And now, what about a thought? How do we resolve a thought? We have a thought. Okay. Resolves into 5 elements. So I'm going to put here actually atoms resolve into 5 elements. Concepts resolves into awareness. Thought, 5 elements. Concepts, awareness. Okay? So awareness is there. Concept is there. 5 elements is there. Now, the moment you go after 5 elements, and the more you go that way, the more differences. At the level of, so for example, an atom, it's all one. There's only one atom here, you know. Atoms, 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 atoms. The moment you start to put atoms together, now you got molecules, now you got differences. So the more we go this way, we've got differences become pronounced. Pronounced. The more we go this way, the more it comes to oneness.
Grosser level difference.
Sorry?
Grosser level difference can be seen.
Yeah, good, good. So the more we go this way, the more grosser it becomes. More dense. Grosser. Yeah. So we are now, you know, participating in the world of... now, even here I can put, like we got pot, but then what goes behind the pot? Your own notions, right? So now you got, what we're going to put on top of, like money, right? Money. So this means I have to get rid of this to see the object's real value. Otherwise, I'm going to treat it according to how I see it. So this means until I get rid of this, I'm not even going to perform this inquiry, because this is much more enticing, much more interesting, much more safe. That's why we can have a follower who is kind of established in concepts, you know, their own ideas, for years, like 5 years. 5 years in a little bubble. And inside that bubble is a tree, there is heaven, there's Krishna. Okay? And me, I'm going to be in that bubble, and I'm going to dance with Krishna. So now when you talk to them about this world, the pot and clay, what do? I mean, I don't know who, I don't want to insult, but what is done sometimes, it is dismissed as illusion. Illusion, and I have to transcend all of this. I have to transcend it. Therefore, there's no interest in this. So there's a much less investment to be a participator, a contributor. I become sort of a little bit more selfish, perhaps, dancing, because it becomes all about my future bubble. I'm going to, after death, go here. So this is Vedanta first eliminates the bubble.
Call it as Salokya.
Aloke.
Salokya. To be 4 types of mukti. Sayujya, Salokya, Saropya and one more.
And what are they in the?
Salokya. They are in the Krishna Loka.
Oh,
So
okay.
Salokya mukti.
Yeah. And not only that, but even if you do have these lokas, then how do you prove that? The stakes are too high, If a person has value in their life, in themselves, they're not going to put up with this belief system. So the more we mature up and we have our value, hey, I am a man, a woman of worth. I have worth. Now you're not willing to buy. Show me. Prove it now. Value.
Okay. Also emotions, where you put the money, if there's guilt and shame, that hides the rest.
Ah, good. Okay. So here's guilt and shame. I am not worthy of, this world. I'm not smart enough, so I cannot analyze this. It's amazing how it is connected.
From this perspective, we see and money seems so superficial.
Yeah. Now this money, I didn't mean pot money. I didn't mean physical. I meant imagination. That means value that we impute. Yeah, of course, money here is important, but money means status symbol and everyone's gonna like me. This is different.
Snake.
Yeah, snake. Snake is over there, so this part has to be fixed. And that's why most of us are here, because we have worked enough on ourselves that we don't fall for this so much. Of course, there are some parts that you may fall into. I also fall into it sometimes, and then I have to fix it. I have to do something about it. So the error now is that when a person says, I am Brahman, okay? So what they're saying is, they're referring to this knower. The truth of me, the truth of this knower, is, it's a Satya-Mithya relationship. So the ultimate truth of me, the knower, is awareness. But that's where most people stop. This is an error. This is not moksha. Because I can go up to you with open eyes like this. I am awareness. You know that? I am awareness. I'm totally I'm just using you to say something. But look, what am I looking at? Awareness. You see this? So now to go, I am awareness. I'm like proud. I am awareness. I'm totally ignoring the very thought that is saying that, and the very world that my eyes are sweeping while saying that statement. I am awareness. I'm totally ignoring the world. So total knowledge is when you say I am awareness, your knower is not confined just here. The space is not just confined here. Space here can say I am space, but it has to also account total space and also the physical object. Suppose it's made out of space. I know it's a tricky example. This too is made out of the same substance. Therefore, I am awareness in that moment simultaneously, due to your understanding, there is threefold understanding. The very thought that said that, I am awareness. That whole thought is awareness. The knower, I see, who knows this? I am awareness. Notice how there's a knower of this. I am awareness. There's a knower of that. That knower is also awareness. And while you're looking at this object, or this looking at here, I am awareness simultaneously recognizes what is being looked at is also awareness, because we've done the inquiry. Physical objects resolve into awareness. Keep this teaching dear and near, because this is total knowledge. All three are included: the knower, the thought, and the physical object. That's total knowledge. This also means that nothing really disappears, does it? Because we leave this as it is. I leave the pot, I leave the clay, I leave the atoms, I leave everything as it is, because it is not my creation. And it's a satya-mithya relationship. No need to touch anything, no need to destroy forms, because they all resolve into one content.
And it very shines by itself. Does this mean like it exists by itself?
Yes, it is self-revealing. Yeah, there's nothing else that's feeding it its shine. It is the final shine. It's the final satyam. It's not a mithya anymore. It's the final satyam. It doesn't depend on anything else. Verse 42, knowledge burns ignorance. Evam atma aranau dhyana mathane satatam krite. Udita avagatihi jwala sarva ajnana indhanam dahet. I also put Dayananda translation underneath, right? Can you see it? Is that on your page? No. I'll put on my side because I put two translations. I put Paramarthananda's and Dayananda's translation. Yeah. Dayananda's is, see, before I say, I will look at the two verses and I will pick the one that is more descriptive. Most cases, Dayananda will be number one, but in this case, I chose Paramarthananda's. So Dayananda says, thus in the arani of the mind, contemplation is done constantly, like the churning in the arani. Arani is wood. In the arani wood, until the fire of knowledge arises and burns all fuel of ignorance, all karmas. So in this case, I chose because it's more descriptive. You can see why. By the way, this Atma Bodha, before I see, it took me a long time to make my notes, and I am very dedicated to giving. I like quality. I like to give quality. So this course is based on the combination of Swami Paramarthananda's course, Dayananda, Chinmaya. There was also a little bit of James Schwartz. I also included, my first teacher. And also Ramakrishna. And they all provide different aspects, and Tadatmananda also. And they all provide different aspects, about 6. They all provide different aspects, and I see this is a really good idea, and I'm going to share this with you. This is a really good idea. So you're studying 6 lineages simultaneously. That's why it took me months to put my notes. And you're benefiting from 6 schools simultaneously. And this is how I will do all my courses. Yeah. So that's just so you know that this is not just Andre's work, it is all these great masters put together. Yeah. Sometimes one Swami will have excellent notes in one verse, sometimes not so much, but some other Swami will. And I will make sure I combine them all and deliver them. Okay. So here in this verse, it says that, see, moksha, what does moksha do, right? What is moksha? I understand the relativity of this mind. It is now not the final thing. My identity is not my sense of I is not the final thing. My knower is not the final thing. My doer is not the final thing. My experiencer is not the final thing. It is all changing amidst this constant presence. This constant presence, I am. So this means that when one recognizes, if this mind is now connecting, if your knower is connecting to what I'm saying, then you are understanding this knowledge. That means the knowledge is taking place. Now, when the knowledge does take place and there's no doubts about it, you are certain, then what happens is that at once, all of the karmas, sanchita karmas, that are attached onto the knower, the doer, the experiencer, they are at once disowned. The only problem with saying the word disowned is that nothing's really disowned, because Atma doesn't have hands. Is not an actor, so Atma cannot disown, and the mind is just an upadhi. It doesn't have a real substance. So the mind can't really disown anything, and Atma can't really disown anything. So a better way to say it is there's a simple recognition that this knower who I thought I was, it is the content of it is right here, right now. And it's a systematic understanding. Therefore, I am never away from what I was seeking. The moment you understand that, at once you have done it. You have recognized, you have shifted your identity. Therefore, from then on, you are free. However, what stays is your prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma, for a few more years, will deliver some blows and some slaps and some gentle strokes on your face. And this is fine. This is yet to be experienced. And in that sense, there's no need to withdraw from the world. There's no need to escape or kind of play out some, lonely role, because everything is here already. You are free in this moment. And this body is then continued to be used for good purposes according to whatever the demands are. Therefore, the person enjoys a relative, enjoys, peace, enjoys tranquility, there's a sense of relaxation that there's very little to do now. So now you become a lot more focused, because before I had so many things to do. I had to attend, but now the clarity becomes much more. So you become a lot more, your mind becomes more focused, because you are at peace with yourself. And thereby the person is able to move through this world very gracefully without too much worries about what's going on around the world. That's going to continue. It will continue even after you and I are gone. That's how it's always been. Okay? And then when the body is dropped, what happens when the body is dropped for the one who is liberated? I am continues. The same I am that is constant now, minus the three bodies. You never again open your eyes. There's no entity to open the eyes and go, there's a body. I remain minus this limiting adjunct, this called upadhi. So nothing's limiting my fullness anymore. See, nothing's limiting me right now already. But that's cognitive understanding. I can't fully experience that because there is a upadhi of the mind. It's limiting fullness. So as far as fullness goes, that is a cognitive understanding. That is a fact right now. So the error is that when we try to experience fullness from the standpoint of this limited mind, that's not possible, because the mind will limit your experience of fullness. Okay? Therefore, I am remains, fullness is I am. I am fullness. What would happen if prarabdha karma ended when a wise person understands their nature? What would happen? Suppose they die immediately. If they died immediately, then who would teach this? Because someone who is confused cannot teach. That would just spread more ignorance. So again, there's an Ishvara setup here that lets the person naturally continue, and then they share. In fact, all of this knowledge comes from wise people because they continued living. And then the imagery of the verse, it says, just as fire is produced by friction of churning two pieces of wood called arani. Have you ever tried to make fire? Imagine we got lost on an island. That person with this skill would become the most precious commodity of all. Andrea, we don't need you right now. We need this person. That's how it works. Only when you make fire and build a house, then we need someone, some teacher. Therefore, when we take two pieces together, is that easy? Suppose is that easy? Trial and error. We would have to find the right straw, the right wood. We would have to not get hardness of the skin, calluses I think it's called. You would have to figure out how fast to turn, how slow. There's a certain speed. You have to blow with a certain strength. Too much doesn't work, too little doesn't work. When do I start blowing? When I see the steam. How quickly do I start blowing and for how long? And while blowing, you still have to, put your neck down, which is very much harder now to turn this. And a certain length you have to turn. It's a certain science behind it. It's trial and error. And then we fail. One more day without food. One more day, I'm still empty. One more day, I'm empty. I'm looking to fill myself up. I'll come back tomorrow. Again, try. A little bit of success. You see, so it's not immediate. And it would be nice if someone told us. But even if someone tells us, even then, are you going to get it right away? No. Still practice, 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 practice. Once you get it, slowly becomes easier and easier, and it ignites the fire. So in that same way, fire of knowledge is ignited through churning, nididhyasanam, and it starts to deepen this understanding in you. Through mananam, of course, and shravanam. All of this is churning. And churning is done for how long? For as long as is necessary until the knowledge takes place. Verse 43. Self shines like the sun after dawn. Arunena iva bodhena purvam santamase khrite. Tataha avirbhavet atma swayam eva amshuman iva. Early dawn. What happens at early dawn? How is the light at early dawn? Not so bright, but there is light. A little bit of light. Does the sun go from here to here in one instant? No. So it's not like the sun, it's not like there's total darkness and then suddenly the sun shows up. The sun slowly starts to be revealed. The light becomes brighter and brighter and brighter, and every time it becomes brighter, I connect to it more. I understand it more. It is a process that slowly evolves. That is as good as saying that it's not like from one moment there is total ignorance and then sudden knowledge. That in between, that is a build-up, and that build-up is listening to classes, deepening our knowledge, sincerity, commitment, churning the wood, all of that slowly, we're connecting the pieces of the puzzle together. We're solving the jigsaw puzzle. Try to ever play jigsaw puzzles? You play this? Easy?
No. Especially not when you don't have the example. Normally if you do it, you have the example that you bought and then you start building it.
Right.
But you do it without.
Yeah, that's even harder. It's possible, but it's much, much harder.
But the knowledge is like that. I don't know the final picture.
Yeah. See, initially we don't know. The mumukshu initially doesn't know. And then the mumukshu becomes an atikari. An atikari now is able to receive the teaching. That's why we give the na-iti prakriya and mahavakya prakriya. So in that sense, we do give the map to the atikari. But to a mumukshu, they don't value knowledge. They say, why do I need knowledge? What is this theory? It's theoretical, it's intellectual. Give me something to do. Now, even doing is also qualifying your mind slowly for becoming an adhikari, who's able to go into self-knowledge. Thereby, this example is, it's a very nice, of course, all examples are limited, no doubt, but it conveys to you that tamasoma jyotirgamaya. Now, it sounds like a very kind of a quick thing, from tamas, darkness, to jyotihi, to light. But the in-between is solving the puzzle, emotional management, mind management, listening, years, talking, falling down, getting up, coming to classes, listening again. All forms of churning the wood. Yeah, okay, it's also akin to, for example, suppose this is a lid, right? I'm covering a candle right now. Now the candle still has oxygen, so it's not burnt out. Now, to lift it, right, you lift it slowly. And as you lift it slowly, there is a light around more and more and more and more. And it becomes very nice to see. It's a very nice thing to recognize. And then once you lift the candle, the lid, you've lifted the veil owing to Ishwara's prasada, right? Ishwara's grace. The lid has been lifted, the veil has been lifted, Avarana Shakti has been lifted, and now, do I have to produce the candlelight? I don't have to produce the candlelight. It was already shining, because if I were to produce it, every action to produce something is limited, and therefore, it's going to produce a limited result. So the only way to figure this out is to discover something that is already limitless. You cannot produce limitlessness. We cannot produce infinity. It's not possible. The only way is to discover it. Thereby, we're never creating Atma, we are discovering Atma, what was there all along. Why was it not recognized? Because of avidya. And therefore, all we saw was the outer. And all we saw was a little bit of shine, shining outwards. And we go, oh, okay, I'm this much. This is me. Verse 44. Self is always present and hidden by ignorance. Atma tu satatam praptaha api apraptavat avidyaya. Tat nashe praptavat bhati swakantha abranam yatha. Yeah, spectacles. Spectacles. What are spectacles in the head, right? Where? Searching everywhere for the spectacles, going far distances, going to the optometrist. Suppose the optometrist also lost their glasses. They say, I don't know where it is. Can't help you. Go to the guru, who's an expert at finding spectacles. Now, different gurus also fail. They also have lost their glasses. They've branded themselves as gurus, but they lost their glasses too. So they tell you glasses are in your mind, go and feel the glasses. Imagine the glasses in your mind. Awaken the glasses. And let me bless you the glasses. And then they touch you. And then you have a picture in your head. And now you go, I found my glasses. Now you're back in the snake. Until eventually, now you're 2 times away from the glasses. At least before, they were just sort of physical here. Now I'm in the mind. So now I have to break through this nonsense, this pratibhasika, to arrive to the proper glasses, and then I can start to analyze and work things out and find them in this empirical world. Because the empirical world is all you have to arrive to the final reality. Because forms is the only thing we have. We only ever participate in forms. There's nothing other than forms here. So the only way to formlessness is through forms. How obvious is that? Not so obvious at all. We go, oh, forms, what is there? Why? Because the senses only stop at forms. So natural assumption is there's nothing at the level of form. What does the mind have to do now? It's forced to imagine. It's forced to go through and create these ideas, and that's why it loves pseudo. These special ideas, how, let me awaken something, or you have to be blessed or something. It's all, anything that sounds exotic or novel or new grabs the attention. Because everyone can open their eyes and see, yeah, what is there? What is there? Just world. What is the world? What is there here? Vedanta, totally opposite. This world, let's analyze the harmonium. Let's analyze the pot. And then let's arrive to the final substance. Therefore, there's no question of me skipping any layer of reality. because every one of these accounts for the one, is not apart from the one. If I skip one of them, can that be the one? Is that limitless now? No, because an atom, suppose I say atoms are just, one thing over there, and I'm something else. Now I am this big thing, but over there are atoms. I am not those atoms. I am now limited by the atoms. I am limited by a different world. Because here I am going, I am so big, but those atoms, I know myself so well, but I wonder what's inside that atom. Again, I'm now a seeker. That's why limitlessness, Ananta, Satchit Ananta, doesn't exclude any level of reality. Because reality is the whole. Therefore, anything within the whole constitutes the whole, is not apart from the whole. Therefore, I cannot, by that logic alone, deny anything. Because that anything is nothing but the whole. Purnamadaha Purnamidam. That is the whole, this is the whole. What is the word this referring to? This, the pot this, clay this, atom this, molecule this, 5 elements this, concepts this. All of it resolves into the one. That's Advaita. So Advaita Vedanta lets us be at peace with the reality. You can walk into a science class. Suppose there's a scientist and they're talking about new discovery, new energy revealed somewhere in the universe, a new building block that we haven't seen before, something that's even smaller than strings. And you're invited to that class. How would you and you're sitting down. What are you thinking? Please tell me your thought process. You're sitting now down in the class. Fascinating physics, fascinating science. A lot of terms. And you're resting at the back of the class. Maybe you come alone. Because who's going to follow you? You probably people won't understand you anyway. Now, what are you thinking at the back of the class?
About the 5 elements.
Ah.
That's the first point.
Good. You can even stop there. Your cognitive understanding will take you to the end.
I will think that they are just playing at mithya level.
They're just playing at the mithya level. Okay.
To play with that is okay.
Yeah.
So they focus on just one aspect.
Of one.
layer.
Yeah. Good.
And that's fine.
That's fine.
But it's mithya.
That's fine.
Well, it's not mithya. It's just the focus.
It's just one aspect of the whole. Yeah. So at once upon a time, we used to, discuss, let's come together and build clay pots and let's learn about how to make, the movie Ghost, how to make these nice pots, right? And then you become an expert at that. And then scientist takes over and it says, hey, you're just dealing with forms, but these forms are not what you think. There's much more than meets the eye. So let us show you about atoms. And now classical physics stops there and says time and space is fixed. Then modern physics comes along and says, hey, there's a quantum level. There's something even smaller. Time and space is relative. So every science, every field of discovery will focus on their speciality. Then a biologist comes and studies the cell, looks at the components within the cell, what makes the cell go around. How does RNA get taken from the atomic from the cell nucleus, and that mRNA gets transported and finds the right constituents, amino acids, which are nothing but proteins within the cell. That protein gets sent to the ribosome. The ribosome then converts that into the right protein. So it takes the amino acids. There's 20 amino acids in a cell. Every cell of all creatures has 20 amino acids, plus minus. Those 20 get put on a ribosome. Ribosome constructs a protein, and that protein then is able to repair the cell. Which amino acid gets taken? What data? How does it select what amino acid out of those 20 to take? Is there a brain in there? It's intelligence all the way. Okay? Therefore, the biologists would take incredible amount of interest. It's fascinating. But what are they actually fascinated into? 5 elements, nothing but concepts. Concepts rearranging themselves to manifest as this amazing phenomena that we call biology. Therefore, they're unknowingly worshipping Ishvara. They may not say it, but it's unknowing worship of Ishvara. We just bring it out. We say, it is Ishvara you're worshipping. Just like yesterday in the Gita, you're doing one thing, you're doing research. One person says, I'm doing cell research. Or more like, I am making money, for my family. The second person, I am doing cell research. The third person, I am helping humanity find a cure for cancer. The same job, different attitude. Fourth person, I am playing with and working with glories of Ishvara. Same thing, different understanding, different experience of the same thing. Therefore, all these layers become evident to us. We're only ever dealing with manifestations of Ishvara. Okay, so back to spectacles. So as I said, we're not producing Atma. Now, if Atma is the substance of all things, then is criminal also Atma?
Yes.
Yeah. And how do you explain this? Because won't then these tendencies pass on to Atma? Now Atma becomes criminal. No.
Atma is
Because we have something called Jiva Srishti and Ishvara Srishti. Okay, so we have, I'm not going to use this word, criminal. Maybe distorted thinking. Distorted thinking. Okay, so distorted thinking has overridden dharma. So this person was born with dharma, but this dharma was crossed out by some, pressures, such as I said to you, there's a friend of mine, she worked with troubled kids, and she figured out that they're very intelligent people, but they all come from abusive, more or less, families. So now that control was stripped out as a child. And one way to regain that control is by becoming a rebel in a society and gaining that instant power, like I can do whatever I want. And it feels very freeing because it was denied to me by my dad or whatever family when I was little. So in that sense, it becomes a troubling personality. Now, this person also has a physical brain. Okay? And there's a cell. They're made of cells, axons, dendrites, they're all connected. Okay? Just like you, okay? Your brain. So brain of this person and a saint. So what is now Ishvara Srishti? Ishvara Srishti means empirical design. That means I didn't create it. I didn't create my brain. It's just I eat food and then the brain forms, the jelly substance forms. So Ishvara Srishti. Srishti. So Ishvara's creation. The brain is what? Ishvara's creation. This finger is Ishvara's creation. I don't know how to create it. That's why if the finger gets cut, I can't regrow it. What's the creature that can? Axolotl. This is a little creature that can regrow its limbs. And science is studying this creature. How does it know, how to regrow the limb with the right length? So it doesn't regrow too long or too short, just the right length. So you can cut the leg off, the leg regrows. So we're now studying in biology how to do this. Axolotl. Something like that. I may be mispronouncing it, but it's looks like a white flat creature. Very small. Amazing science, right? What about the is it the octopus, who makes its skin the right texture, the exact same texture that it lands on? Have you ever seen that? Same color, instant. So many millions of pigmentations on the skin. That it's able to replicate the color, the texture, not just the color, the texture. Total camouflage. 2 seconds, quicker. Even they say a couple of milliseconds. 1 second to our eye. Moves away back to normal. Next texture transforms. Wow. Chameleon, same. It doesn't even use eyes. How much knowledge is just in the eye alone? You got to study for 10 years, ophthalmologist. 10 years. One single component of the physical body. GP knows general, and then you go on to specialize, and then now you got another 5 or so years. So what are we ever studying? Concepts, putting themselves together to form complex components. And then those complex components are now put together intelligently to make a living, breathing organism capable of working and interacting and responding to the heat, the air, water, thirst, communicating through sounds. These are just sounds that we're communicating through. It's amazing. Sounds remove ignorance. That's all English is, just sounds. Once upon a time, English was just that removes ignorance. And then we say jabra, and you say, what's jabra? Oh, it's a dog. And then we make that link in our brain. And now a bunch of those sounds somehow remove beginningless ignorance.
But isn't it a joke? Because what we're looking for awareness, is infinitely normal. And this Maya business and this whole appearance, and that's the miracle. But we think awareness is like...
because exactly, because it's actually the most normal thing, and we turn it into a object.
Crazy.
Enlightenment is so overrated.
Oh man, overrated. You wouldn't believe.
We are all.
Yeah, amazing. They're not what they seem, yeah. The most ordinary, normal thing becomes the most extraordinary thing. And then on top of that, you got this pratibhasika, snake. And everyone's got a different version of a snake. And then you got a whole field of institutions and religions born, all trying to pamper their snake.
Knowledge of snakes. Varieties of knowledge of snakes.
Knowledge of snakes. Dealing with a bunch of imaginations. They all seem real. So, the brain is Ishvara Srishti, but the free will or the choice, how do I wish to move these brain cells around? So the brain is just possibilities. I can use this brain to calculate E equals mc squared to find that out, or to do simple things like, with all the respect to farmers, we all need them, just plow the grass or plant the seeds, using the same intellect. That very same intellect can send, like the Wright brothers, can learn how to replicate the wings and the flight resistance and put us in the air. Can learn to design ABS brakes. How do you design a brake that is able to cut the distance between the stopping and the final destination? So you say, well, just squeeze the brake, let it go. Squeeze it, let it go. Don't allow it to slip on the road. And that's going to, through their simulation, cut the distance of the car stopping. That's again the same intellect that does simple things. And all of that is possibilities given to us. That possibility is done through what's called Jiva Srishti. Jiva Srishti. Srishti. That means Jiva's creation or choice. Now, whether choice is there or not, that's not the question. I'm just going to say choice. Or free will. I'm not discussing now whether the nature of free will. I'm just saying your own selection. So how do I want to move these cells? To break into a bank or cheat my way into business or be honest? All of this is governing how these cells move. So now when I say, yes, even a distorted person is also resolving into Atma, what I mean is their brain. But on top of that, they can collapse different possibilities through their own thinking and thereby manifest different things in their life. Just like you and I, we've manifested through our Jiva Srishti. We said, we want to show up here. But we're given the same brain that everyone else is given, who hasn't exercised that, and therefore they're not here. As simple as that. Okay.
So does that mean Ishvara Srishti only resolves into awareness? Jiva Srishti does it? Nothing like
Jiva Srishti is taking Ishvara Srishti. It's because Jiva Srishti is your 5 elements, subtle 5 elements. So yes, it's using 5 elements to work things out. To work things out, how do I want to think about this world? Otherwise, it's all, the whole thing is nothing but Atma. There's nothing but Atma here. But I'm given another choice to work things out and reshuffle my own brain cells, my own thinking, rewire my brain, and therefore to collapse a different possibility. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.